Hello and welcome to India Career Center, the one-stop podcast for students, professionals, parents and guardians. In every episode, we will try to deal with a current topic that needs expert advice related to career guidance and career mentoring. Please welcome your host, Dr. S.P. Mishra to the show and happy listening.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode on India Career Center. I am extremely delighted and honored to host Mr. Viswanath, who is the MD and CEO of Randstad India. Mr. Viswanath has over 28 years of experience across various industries. Mr. Viswanath is known to be a pragmatic leader driving sustainable growth and profitability. Since 2014, since the time he joined Randstad India, he has led number of transformational initiatives and turned around several non-performing business units in Randstad India. By profession, he is a chartered accountant and also a certified black belt in Six Sigma. Mr. Viswanath has held several leadership positions in General Electric, Motorola, and TVS Group before joining Randstad. Beyond his professional achievements, he is a fitness enthusiast who enjoys running, yoga, and cricket. So with those words, I welcome Mr. Viswanath to our conversation today. And I'm really looking forward to an engaging conversation, which is going to help me to learn a lot about what's happening in this industry in general. And hopefully this conversation also will help our listeners and viewers in India and across the world. Mr. Viswanath, welcome to the India Career Center podcast. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Dr. S.P. Mishra and India Career Center. It's a really privilege and pleasure to be talking to you today.
Thank you so much, sir. So to start with, you can just call me SP. I think that should be fine. So looking at your profile while preparing for this conversation, looking at your profile, you are a chartered accountant and Six Sigma black belt holder. You worked in other sectors like General Electric, TVS Group, and other positions. So from there to human resources and to a recruiting from like Randstad, how this has panned out for you like this?
Well, that's an interesting question, and many people ask because I think I really believe in career stream architecture. How can you kind of shape your career into direction of your passion, right? So, and it's a long story, but if I have to tell that in a few words. Of course, finance is my passion. It's my core competency as well. And that's where the chartered accountancy comes from. But then as I got into GE and started working on finance, different aspects of finance, you always look at numbers. And how do you connect that numbers to an organization purpose or vision? And that's been something which I've been very curious about. And you also know that what you measure gets improved. And that's where the Six Sigma came from. Interestingly, I started my career with Motorola, who are the pioneers of Six Sigma. But they left Six Sigma to the shop floor, the quality people, where they started measuring defects per million in the production line. Right. And that's where as a finance guy, while I was working in a pioneer organization which kind of mastered Six Sigma, I did not really kind of get to use it. But when I went to GE, I think, at that point in time, I think in the early 2000s, Six Sigma was the wave, and every officer of GE had a mandate to produce certain number of yellow belts, green belts, black belts, and master black belts as part of their officers' KPIs, right? So it was actually thrust upon us. And I was thinking all the while I worked in an organization which is so focused on Six Sigma, that's Motorola, but I never got used to it. Now, how as a finance person, I'm going to get Six Sigma certified even. And I owe that to GE because we were put into waves of training, starting with yellow belt, green belt, and there were qualification criterias, and every manager had, within 18 months, you need to produce 70% of your team to be yellow belt certified, right? And when you have that kind of a direction, it creates a little bit of energy and drive to get that. So I'm very fortunate. So started with measuring things, and I think the biggest learning for me is defining the problem statement, right? Because most often we deal with situations where the problems is so hazy, and Six Sigma helps you to focus on defining the problem from a customer standpoint. Most often we do a mistake by defining the problem from the organization or a team standpoint. And that helps you develop customer focus. And if you get the definition of the problem right, most often than not, you're going to get, how do you measure the baseline? Where are we today, and where do you want to get? So the DMAC approach: define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. That's something which has helped me throughout my career solve critical business problems all the while. And the last part of your question was about why Randstad. Um, and again, there is a little bit of a history behind it. I often go to, in my mid-career, I often used to go to different functions, different businesses, and ask them, hey, tell me about your finance organization, right? How do you find them? And most often, the first few answers, whether it is from sales or procurement or operations or HR, is, oh, they are great. They are very intellectual. They are very knowledgeable, very hardworking, almost work every day overtime. And they solve critical problems for the organization. So these were some of the profound things that we heard, and rightfully so. I have a great respect for the finance community. And then I asked them, tell me more. And when I asked them, tell me more, oh, they are a little bit dull, they are bureaucratic, they don't attend office parties, they don't attend conferences, they don't network, right? So that led me to a little bit of curiosity. I belong to a fraternity where, they call us dull, boring, bureaucratic, right? So that led me to, how can I address this for the finance fraternity? How can I make finance people more co-driving the business? Co-own the strategy for the company, make things easy for the business to operate. And that, with that mindset, I have built teams right from GE across to Randstad in any of my roles. Building people-centric finance teams. And that really has helped my personal growth, as well as being able to grow, the reputation of the finance teams with whom I have worked. And of course, that also helped me pivot my career into a people-centric, a talent company like Randstad. So 10 years ago, I made that plunge, and I think there has been never looking back.
Fantastic. Can you also briefly tell about Randstad a group as well as about India operation?
Sure. Randstad is a Dutch company. Our headquarters is in Diemen in Amsterdam. It actually started as a founder, Fritz Goldsmeding. He actually was one day driving a bicycle to his office, and he realized that he needed an executive assistant. So he actually found a woman who could do that job, and they used to bicycle to office every day. And that's how it started, as a two-man company. And later he realized the need for contract staffing, especially in the blue-collar space. So it was typically centered around Amsterdam, in Diemen, and then it expanded throughout Netherlands. and then spread across Europe with a few acquisitions. It grew in the US, diversified into APAC, and today we are actually about 60 years. We are into 39 countries, and we have redefined the way talent is sourced. So we help organizations thrive by providing them the right talent at the right time. And it could be anything. It could be temporary staffing. It could be blue collar. It could be white collar. It could be permanent placements, freelance. So the world of work is changing. Talent is becoming scarce. Talent is also becoming borderless. And in some countries, talent is becoming, there is a age kind of ageism that's coming where you're not able to find young talent. So we try to shape the world of work by nurturing talent. Our strategy partner for talent is very compelling. It is about becoming the world's most leading specialized and equitable talent company. What it means is whatever we do, we are specialists, and we help clients manage their talent needs by providing them a total talent architecture across the spectrum as advisors. For India, it's a result of an acquisition. We have a legacy of about 30 odd years. And as Randstad, our presence in India is from 2007. So we are about 17 years in the country. And we put about 1,000 people to work every day. And we also have made more than 500,000 placements in the last several years of our existence in India. So yeah, I think that's in brief Randstad, and I think I just have to, if I were to talk about the significance of India for Randstad. Couple of years ago, our CEO, Sander van Noordende, when he visited India, he talked about the talent in India because our demographics are different. A youth of under 30 years entering the workforce. There is a GDP, which is the fastest growing in the world, and so much happening in India with different opportunities and also a little bit of the cost advantage that we have. So Sander talked about betting on the talent in India. So he said we will double down and triple down in India. And that's where we have set up our own global capability center in Hyderabad and in Bangalore, where we do the work for the 39 countries in terms of back office support. And in addition to that, last year when Sander came in, we also talked about the market in India. Because while the talent is, appreciable, it's also about the opportunities that the market throws in terms of growth, which is a little bit non-existent in some other geographies for various reasons. It could be political, geopolitical, or war, and also driven by scarcity. So we have a great strategy for growing both the market as well as utilizing the talent in India. And that's where we are right now.
Fantastic. So you mentioned about Randstad involved in temporary staffing as well as permanent staffing. So is there a broad numbers to share in the sense, suppose out of the 100%, what is the percentage in terms of the temporary staffing and what is the percentage on the permanent staffing?
Well, as Randstad core employees, we are about 5,000 people in India. And we help organizations by staffing 70,000 people every day, right? So we are putting people in engineering jobs, in banking sales jobs, in manufacturing blue collar jobs, and then also some of the finance, ITES, admin jobs. So those are the 70,000 people who are Randstad but work for our clients. In addition to that, where clients look for permanent placements, where they want to hire on their roles, we have perm solutions right from across the pyramid, right from the we don't do actually the entry levels, but the 3 to 8 years, and then the mid management, the senior management, and then we also have an executive search solution which caters to the CXO level. So we provide permanent hiring support to our clients, both from an advisory standpoint, plus also making placements. And that's where I talked about the 500,000 placements that we have done in the last several years in India alone.
Fantastic. So 70,000 kind of temporary staff, so to speak.
That's correct.
So just to get a context, this is very interesting and important also for Indians to understand. How big is the total market of this? I know, total opportunity could be infinity actually because of the possible talent which is there. But
Right.
just to get a sense of this particular market, if there are 10 other players also who are also into this market,
Right.
what this 70,000 means in terms of a context?
Well, I think uh, by large, the contractual staffing market is a little bit unorganized. In India, the unorganized segment accounts to more than 85% of the market. Only 15% of the market is organized. And by that, I mean, these are the people who are not deprived of their minimum wages, the provident fund, the ESI contributions, gratuities. So that's the organized segment. Roughly, as per Indian Staffing Federation, we have about 8 to 9 million contractual jobs in the country, right? But it's very fragmented. The top 5 companies control about 15 to 16% of this market. The rest of it is local players, mom and pop shops, which are all over the country. Because India is a large geography, and clients look for support, which is besides them. And this is especially pre-COVID. Things are changing now with digitization, automation, where reach has increased. So I think what do our clients get from signing up with Randstad is peace of mind. You get the best talent. We are able to ensure high levels of compliance, whether it is payment of salaries on time, ensuring that their final settlements are done, whether their compliance is managed well, and more importantly, the talent experience, which so we do not kind of differentiate the talent that we deploy to our clients from that of our own core employees. Most often, we kind of match the benefits. So from that perspective, we get highly engaged and motivated talent to work for our clients. And a partner for talent strategy is not just about providing them a job, because a contractual job could be maybe 9 months or 12 months. But what we do differently is how can we kind of engage with that talent over their career journey? So as and when their contracts end, can we redeploy them with another client of ours, or can we upskill them to another role which they can do? So these are some of the things that we do a little bit more differently in the market to be able to kind of be the most trusted partner for our clients.
Interestingly, you mentioned about the talent is becoming borderless, and India has the huge potential of being that the source for skilled people across the world.
Right.
Being in 39 countries already, is there a possibility that you are able to deploy people from India to other markets as well?
Well, yeah, I think if you go back a few years with the BPOs and the IT companies, it was not more. I mean, it started with deploying talent across other geographies. But then post-COVID, I think there has been a switch about work can be done from anywhere. So you don't really need to go on an H-1B visa and where you need to be paid wages at, let's say, an US equivalent wages. So the same job can be done in India at perhaps a lot more competitive cost. That is one description of borderless. But if you look at countries like Europe, there is a huge scarcity of even not just IT skills. For example, in Germany, there is a huge demand for forklift drivers in factories. There is a huge demand for nurses and doctors. In other parts of Europe, there is a demand for welders, electricians, bus drivers. Now, obviously, this opens a plethora of jobs, and this cannot be work which is done remotely. So here you need to have the talent physically migrate to those countries to be able to carry out work. So we help our clients with a bit of both. Work done in India through offshore development centers, and especially predominant in technology, ITES kind of profiles. And then there is also talent export. So, of course, there are a little bit of immigration challenges, but wherever feasible, we are able to source the talent in India, upskill them, and then deploy them overseas into the respective jobs. So there are great examples where we have done that successfully in the past.
Okay, so what role you play in terms of upskilling people's skills?
Well, just to give you an example, if a country needs a welder, they need to be proficient in welding. They need to be certified by a certain body or association. They may have the skill, but they also need that certification in order to be exportable, because the immigration laws only allow that kind of proficiency to be qualifying for talent export. So we work with partners. While we may not have the capability to do everything ourselves, we work with partners who can certify these engineers for welding skills so that they are talent ready and then export ready, right? So basically, some of these sometimes it could be just soft skills. It could be spoken English. Sometimes it could be the technical skills. So we support. First is we identify the talent. Second is we identify the partners who can help us do that. And then once they are ready, we kind of deploy them to overseas.
Fantastic. That's so important. Yeah, so moving on now, if you can take us through the major trends which are shaping up the future of jobs particularly in this decade and probably beyond that. I know, I mean, when you are trying to predict the future, it's so difficult.
Right.
But since you are in this for last more than a decade now, and
Right.
you have the insights from your global operations also, India operations also,
Sure.
share your thoughts on this.
Sure. I think some of the immediate predictions about workplace is, as we all know, there is so much that is being talked about AI, artificial intelligence. So AI will go mainstream in the coming years. So that's something which is an expected development. Uh, Equity will withstand the backlash, considering that talent scarcity is the defining trait of labor markets, right? And by being equitable, I'm talking about diversity, inclusion, so that every source of talent is being utilized to the hilt. I think, and Randstad as an organization thinks that the dust will settle over the return to office debate. There has been a lot of debate in recent years, but we believe that hybrid arrangements will become the dominant model. It's about flexibility with intentionality. Uh, Another development we think is the gig work will get a makeover with increasing regulations, creating a level playing field from a flexibility as well as a security standpoint. And finally, I think it's about people, not generations. What we are going to see is four generations now sharing the workplace. Um, the Gen Zs, and maybe at some point in time, the Gen Alphas will be in the workplace. Shared values like fair pay, flexibility, growth opportunities will outweigh the differences in style or preferences. So so that's the near-term view. The future of jobs in this decade will be driven by technological advancements, shifting workforce expectations, and evolving work models. Uh, Automation, artificial intelligence, digital tools are transforming industries, creating new roles, and reshaping the ones which are already existing. And as I said, diversity, equity, and inclusion will, as organizations, they need to recognize the importance of fostering inclusive practices. So I think these are some things which we can expect. From a talent perspective, I think as younger generations get into the workforce, what they expect is greater work-life balance, meaningful and purposeful jobs, not just a job, but also focusing on the career. Organizations need to learn the significance of adaptability, because at this point in time, if you see leaderships, styles would be very dominant. But with the new workforce, I think and talent being scarce. Gone are the days. In my younger days, it was about finding a job. Now I think it's about finding the talent. So adaptability, focusing on continuous upskilling, and more importantly, focusing on well-being will be the key drivers as we get into the future.
Okay, any discussion about future cannot happen without automation, AI being discussed. So, what do you see as the impact of the immediate term as well as little long-term impact of automation and AI on the trends for job opportunities?
It's been talked for the last 2 to 3 years. Every organization was going through digital transformation. Huge budgets were set for artificial intelligence, modernizing their IT infrastructure. So there is no doubt that they are going to redefine the job opportunities across the various sectors. And all this is to enhance productivity. And let me actually tell you an recent thing which I heard. When you have to predict the future, the first thing is it creates a lot of fear, anxiety, because I don't even know what I'm going to do in the next quarter. How am I going to predict something which is 5 years and 10 years from now? So I I use a different mindset, and having a 3-decade career, I'm always able to reflect what happened in the first 10 years of my career. There was a lot of discussion about Y2K disruption. And then you had the financial crisis in 2008, and more lately, the COVID. So we have seen quite a few of things in the past. And all this while, there has been fear of the unknown, right? So now, how does one be able to confront this and be a lot more assertive and confident about what one needs to do? the simple question I ask myself is, uh, what's going to change in 2040, for example, from a client expectation standpoint? And this is where my Six Sigma helps, right? And and when I start looking at it from a client standpoint, they're going to expect a better quality product, a faster cycle time in terms of delivering that, and at the lowest cost, right? Now, these three are not going to change. Instead of thinking what's going to change, if you focus on what's not going to change, and if you focus on these three things, whether it is a product or a service, I need to improve my quality. I need to improve my, the speed at which I can deliver. I need to optimize the cost at which I can deliver, and build your product or service keeping that in mind. The world will look a lot more simple. The problem will look a lot more comprehensible, right? Uh, so I think that's what I think will happen. So we need to build up, AI is perhaps going to take out a lot of jobs which are software development, right? I'm not sure if you heard a couple of days or just very lately, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella said apps are going away and will be replaced by agents, right? And this is a stunning proclamation of where the future of software development is going. No more applications means no more SaaS companies, also means likely far and few developers. The future is about having an underlying database, that fundamental data of what you need, and there is going to be agents that are interacting on the database, right? So the entire application stack will disappear. What does this mean to the SaaS industry is a question mark. I believe software companies will look very different than what they are today. Now, this coming from Microsoft CEO perhaps is a, a future focused thing. So I think we got to take it seriously and see what we need to do differently to set up our environments, because I think it's going to be a lot more efficient than what we have today. We spend a lot of time hard coding things. If that's going to change, yeah, I think the future of software engineering will be very different.
That's very interesting and very profound, actually, coming from Satya Nadella, as you said.
Right.
So which means that young people who are watching this or listening to this conversation, for them, what do you think they should be focusing on? What kind of skills they should be developing so that they are relevant for, let's say, medium term in next 5 years or 10 years time? What are the relevant skills to be acquired?
I think, broadly, I would classify them as the technical skills, which in any case they are doing, but they need to realize that it's not going to be too much of development work, but it is a lot more about, artificial intelligence, machine learning. It's also about creativity, I would say that's where I think emphasis is also on soft skills. Emotional intelligence becomes extremely important. Collaboration becomes important, because a lot of work is going to be done through AIs. You need to be able to manage, you need to be able to provide that human-centric skills, which are getting more and more important. And that's where curiosity, emotional intelligence, these kind of things become important. But of course, the skills in demand are data analysis, machine learning. These continue to be important. Cybersecurity is becoming important because of data protection laws and also privacy laws that are coming up. Sustainability is becoming important in everything that we do. How can we adopt sustainable practices? Digital marketing is another skill because I think as marketing budgets shrink, and then the growth is now spread across to tier two and tier three cities. Gone are the days where you need to have an office or a branch in every city. That's going to be meaningless, but you still need to have a reach that can take you to some of these remote locations. So digital marketing. Um, and with more and more focus on customer experience, because today I think it's not just about a product or a service, but it's also about what experience you can provide to your clients. So ability to continuously learn and adapt, to business cycles, and also be able to provide a very differentiated experience to your clients is becoming important. So I think it's a bit of both, but lot of focus is on shifting to the softer skills which are becoming important.
Fantastic. So you earlier mentioned that Randstad is not focused as much into the entry-level jobs. But just to quote some numbers, in India, higher education is giving an output of nearly 1 crore, little over 1 crore young students coming out of the system every year.
Mhm.
And I really don't know whether India has so much of jobs to offer to these young kids.
Right.
And the problem could be both. It could be because the education system has not really adapted to what is required in the industry.
Mhm.
At the same time, probably the industry is not ready to create so many jobs right now.
Mm.
So from a organization which is actually in the space of recruitment, though
Mhm.
not into the entry level, but
Right.
what do you think the institution, educational institution should be looking at in terms of addressing this challenge of how to produce talent which are more absorbable immediately into the market? Could
Sure.
be in India or could be across the world also.
Sure. I think just a little bit of correction. We do work with educational institutions, but it's just that, when it comes to campus hiring, the large numbers comes from the IT services companies themselves. So they go to the campuses and do it. They don't need Randstad's support in terms of entry-level hiring. Having said that, where specific clients have requirements, we do have solutions like RPOs, which is a recruitment process outsourcing solution where we represent the client in those campuses. Uh, so so that's our stand, but we do work heavily with educational institutions in terms of partnerships about how we can kind of shape the talent even during their academic courses, right? So so I think to answer the question, they must focus on equipping students with both technical and soft skills and prepare them for the jobs of the future. It's not just the final trimester, but I think right from the year one, if they are made job ready, if they are familiarized with what happens in an industry or a workplace through, and there are internships, industry collaborations, and hands-on projects. These would actually help in terms of making the talent a lot more job ready. Um, in terms of skills, I think if there is enough emphasis on critical thinking, fostering digital literacy, problem solving, and adaptability, that will help students navigate the ever-changing job landscape. Uh, Providing access to emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, data science, and automation will also ensure students are prepared for the technological demands of tomorrow's workforce. Uh, Most important, I think, encouraging a growth mindset and continuous learning. It's not that, I have done my 4 years, I'm done and dusted. I think the way technology is changing, I think it's about constantly reinventing yourself So the ability to upskill and reskill will also empower students to remain agile and responsive to the future industry shifts that we can anticipate in the near future.
Fantastic. You mentioned that, as you rightly mentioned, that currently there are four different generations of, working together in the organizations. So the leaderships of today have a very special challenge. So while recruiting CXOs, what kind of challenges you face, both from the demand side as well as from the supply side?
Well, yeah, I think often when it comes to CXOs hiring landscape in India, we seek leaders who have very strong technical and strategic capabilities. Because every organization is going through transformation and culture of innovation. There is a growing demand for leaders with digital transformation expertise, whether it is AI or sustainability. That's something which is sought after. One of the key challenges in this space is, there are some niche sectors where you see talent shortages. It could be maybe semicon manufacturing. There is a lot of work that's happening in infrastructure, where you're building roads and bridges, where you need talent with that expertise. So that continues to be there. And then I think, as I said, we do not have, when it comes to at CXO levels, we do not have that many women leaders being able to take some of those challenging jobs. So diversity. So I think it's also about, in a country where 48% of our population is women, how do we kind of provide them um, the skills or competencies that are needed at a CXO level to grow. I think what we also see is global capability centers which are mushrooming in India today. And there are also a lot of organizations eyeing for IPOs and building businesses, business teams post the IPO, right? So these are skills which are very high in demand. Industry reports indicate that over 60 CIOs and about almost 70 odd senior vice presidents based in India are leading global functions, be it finance or HR or marketing or procurement. So they are leading the organization, function. They are function heads sitting in India, leading global functions. So I think it's also a little bit about global mindset. How do you manage cross-cultural teams and foster growth? So I think these are some things which we are seeing in the first half of 24 alone. A 20% increase in leadership hiring in India. Notable demand is for sales and marketing leaders, right? So, and when you are leading sales and marketing functions, I think it's all the more important about go-to-market strategies of countries beyond India, which you are supporting. So these are things which I think the talent needs to, at a CXO level, needs to embrace and be ready in order to be effective in those roles.
So do you see an acceptability by Indian organization-based operations in India, rather, also accepting, the CXO level hires from other parts of the world to come in? Do you see that as a possibility, or is it happening already?
I mean, you're referring to talent coming to India from outside?
Yes.
Well, I mean, the expatriate culture has been prevalent for some time, predominantly in the early 2000s. You see a lot of expats in India. Uh, but I think of late, I think it's more to do with preparing the Indian leaders for those overseas jobs. So it's a little bit of mentoring, cross-culture, trainings, and creating that mindset where they can be successful. Because I think it's not, I mean, with all the talent demographics that we are seeing, India is the brightest and the best talent right now. It's just that they need a little bit of molding to the company's culture, the business principles, values, etc. We see expats coming to India to set up, shape the team, and then perhaps find a successor who can take that role and lead them thereafter. I think the future is going to be lesser and less of expats coming in. But what we see is a lot of Indians who had gone abroad wanting to come back because they see better opportunities in India. They see a better compensation, that parity is improving. They are able to now live up to the Indian values, stay with their parents, relatives, and I think the only thing, of course, they miss is a quality of life which they are used to. But with more and more infrastructure and the bigger cities, better traffic, all that happening, I think that it should be a zero-sum game in a few years. But at least for now, they are able to make some small compromises and more than willing to come back to India and lead positions, which they were doing erstwhile in other countries.
I think this is a very ideal development for Indian talent. Younger talent moving into abroad locations or sometimes working on offshore projects also. And senior and mid and senior level executives are able to come back to India, finding the right kind of opportunity. I think that's a fantastic development for India professionally, right?
Absolutely. I think I call it as the reverse brain drain. A few years ago, after your basic engineering, almost 90 to 95% of the talent used to go abroad to do their masters or PhDs. Now I believe, and my daughter is a standing example, where they are able to do some of those masters online, and rather than going and migrating, right? So I think we are able to retain the bright talent in India. We are also able to attract the talent. And I think GE is a great example, right? They set up their first offshore research center several decades ago in Bangalore. And I think Jack Welch was the pioneer then. Uh, he found in a town hall that there were more than 60 odd PhDs and senior scientists sitting in Schenectady. And he asked everyone to raise their hand, and they said, how many Indians in this group? And almost 60 odd people raised their hand. And then he said, if what if I create a R&D center in India? Would you guys want to go back? And all they required was a place where they could work passionately, and that's how the Wealth Center got created. And out of the 60, a majority of them moved to India, right? So yeah, I think it's a bit of both. One is creating a work environment which can attract that talent. Second is also being able to provide them a decent um, standard of living, which they are used to in those developed countries.
Right, I think absolutely. And also Texas Instrument also played a major
Oh,
role
yeah.
in that. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
they also set up their setup, I think nearly 4 decades ago, probably around
absolutely.
the same time.
Absolutely. They were the first to come to Bangalore, India. And yeah, I think they were the leaders when it came to setting up R&D centers to attract talent.
Okay, now that we have seen that talent is actually borderless when it comes to work. So uh, the young persons of today have to learn how to be culturally adaptable. You mentioned about adaptability as one of the key skills
Right.
to be inculcated during education. So in the recruitment process, how do you go about seeing this cultural fitment? I mean, is it a important factor while looking at a recruitment?
Oh, absolutely. I think without doubt, I think we hear about toxic work environments. Of late, we also hear a lot of discussions about number of hours working a week, right from Mr. Narayan Murthy talking about 70 hours. There was also a young CEO who talked about 14 hours a day. So there is a lot of discussion about that. So cultural fitment is the cornerstone for successive executive recruitment. So when leaders align with an organization's value, vision, working ethos, they are better equipped to drive not just business outcomes, but also employee engagement and long-term organization growth. Now, of course, it's a very qualitative thing, so it is difficult to assess cultural fitment. So in order to do it effectively, organizations must first define what are their core values and workplace culture. For example, in Randstad, our core values are to know, to serve, to trust, simultaneous promotion of everyone's interests, and to strive for perfection. So these are the values which kind of bind us to Randstad. And to know is about knowing your customer. To serve is about, we are in a service industry. How do I serve my clients every day to the best of my capabilities, or to be the best in the market? And then to trust. Trust is also about creating a high trust, high performance culture within the organization, which is free from any bias or favoritism. And simultaneous promotion of all interest is about equitable, and then striving for perfection. In a service industry, you're never going to be 100% perfect. But how do you continue to strive, and how do you help your clients with promise of action when something goes wrong? How do you remediate it quickly? So these are some of the aspects which we look for when we hire for our company. Now, of course, we do also hire for other companies, right? So in permanent placements, we place candidates. So we spend a lot of time understanding our clients, what kind of culture they come from. For example, there could be a client who believes in they're doing something transformative, something innovative. They may need a person who we are going to recommend to be placed to be able to work 18 hours a day and work 7 days a week. Now, I cannot put somebody who is just getting married or having, maybe school-going children. I cannot present that candidate to the client because that would not fit in that culture. There may be clients where they have a very autocratic style or a pace-setting style of leadership. So I need to be very careful in terms of assessing what talent fits into which organization. There may be organizations which are working in very remote locations, right? So we have solar and wind energy projects which are in very remote locations. Now, again, some talent may have a reservation to go to those locations because their children's education and other things could be a priority. So we do have tools which will help us do a culture assessment. Um, and I believe in something called culture add. Most often we talk about culture fit, but I think it's also about culture add. So we look for talent when they join Randstad. In addition to the five, business values and principles that we have, what else do they bring? Do they bring a collaborative style of leadership? Sometimes I would need transformational leaders who don't have the fear of failure, but are willing to take that risk several notches above what the situation demands. So I think it's also about assessing the culture adds. And sometimes we also use tools like job, boss, company fit, right? Most often when we look at a candidate, they look at the job fit, uh, but we also look at, does this candidate fit to that boss's style? Is it a coaching style that is needed when you have a very complex task, or is it just race for numbers, so pace setting? So we kind of do those competency assessments, and then the company fit is more about, very all different companies have different kind of philosophies or cultures. Um, so would this person also fit into the company, into that peer group, and assimilate themselves quickly? Or is that person just going to follow marching orders given by their superiors? So I think these kind of assessments help in terms of, end of the day, I think organizations thrive with people. So we got to give the right talent to the right company. And that's what we do in Randstad.
Lovely. I really like the concept of cultural ad. This is something really very, very fitting and very nice concept, what you can bring in addition.
Right.
So when you get a inquiry or a note from your client, do they define specifically that, okay, I need such and such type of profile, such skills, and what are the other skills they want? What are the other things they mention? And also, is there a trend where more and more clients are actually also talking about diversity and inclusion at the time of recruitment? Are you getting such inquiry from your clients? Of course, Randstad, you're doing that, but
Right.
what about the clients?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think end of the day, that our job is to get the best talent to the client. So uh, we do uh, we do something called as uh, an interview process even before we accept a mandate. So one is the job description, which becomes important. That talks about the desire. I mean, that talks about the core competencies that are needed for the candidate to be successful. And then there are also a few desired skills. Sometimes it could be that I need a candidate from the same industry, or the region. So those are things which usually the companies prescribe. Now, we go a little bit beyond that, ask questions about, about culture, about the need for senior management. Do they have metrics on diversity or inclusion? And sometimes these are, most cases, companies may not be aware. Global companies, because it has been prevalent in the US for generations, I think if it is a subsidiary of a global company, they adopt to those global metrics. But most Indian companies are unaware of some of these. So that's where Randstad's role as a strategic advisor comes into play. So we emphasize the need for diversity inclusion, and we also show them examples of how companies have been successful by creating a diverse workforce. And that's the eureka moment for the clients, where they say, well, that's interesting. So can you help us with those diversity metrics and how we can drive hiring, right? So our job is to kind of educate our clients where they are unaware. But in many cases today, I think clients do have DEI metrics. They also have objectives and senior management targets. So we help our clients to achieve those metrics. Now, I feel D&I serves both as a moral imperative as well as a business advantage, right? So, and in my personal, examples, I always have seen diverse teams foster better innovation, better improve decision making, and enhance organizational resilience. In a very rapidly changing landscape. Um, and embracing diversity means it's going beyond the traditional talent pools and to identify leaders from varied backgrounds. A good example of it is 2 years ago, we launched an initiative called Randstad for All. And we targeted hiring people from LGBTQ plus.
Mhm.
Uh, we also had people with uh, disabilities, and we also we have always been on the women diversity, gender diversity. We have always been very good at. So we targeted and hired 12 people from this under this Randstad for All initiative, and we put them, and these were people who knew nothing about recruitment, nothing about HR, but we put them through a classroom training to inculcate the skills that are required for recruitment or the skills that are required for account management. And this initiative got the attention of the World Economic Forum. It was even published in the WEF annual report as an initiative towards DEI. And we are also privileged to have the India Workplace Equality Index Awards. Couple of years we had bronze, and the last 3 years we have got the silver award in the DEI metrics. We also help our clients target people with disability. And it should not be a tokenism, is what I believe. In most organizations, it ends up as I need to have 2% of my workforce with so and so. But I think it's about the moral cost. You need to make the organization ready. It's not just about hiring people, but what practices do you follow in the talent acquisition? What practices you follow in terms of providing them accessibility? It could be gender neutral toilets. It could also be how they are received in the organization as any other employee, something where they are able to they have a sense of belonging and purpose, and they feel respected and valued.
Okay, this is interesting. Gender neutral toilets. Is this something which is coming up nowadays?
Well, yeah, I think most DEI focused organizations want to ensure that people are able to bring in their true self to work, right?
Mm.
Without being judged. So many organizations who have DEI as on top of their agenda, they are able to create some of these amenities in the workplace. So people feel belonged, and they feel also safe. Um, so yeah, I mean, it requires a lot of adaptation in India, but of course, it all begins with the leadership, the senior management. If that is a metric, and that's something where you need to make everybody belong, you got to make those investments.
I think it's like breaking a mindset. For
Absolutely.
so many years, we have a different mindset altogether.
Right, right. No, and I think for us as a talent company, it's about uh, whoever they are being able to make a livelihood. If you see, there is a lot of oppression against the LGBTQ in India, right? And most often you see them because they don't have an opportunity to work, they end up being neglected, and you see them often suffering, and they go through a lot of mental agony as well. So if organizations are able to kind of support these and create meaningful avenues for them to work, I think you're creating a major shift in their life, right? So, and that's what we believe, and we have to demonstrate it as an example within us before we can create those stories for our clients.
Right. Okay, so moving on, can you explain about how the digital platforms are transforming the recruitment process. You mentioned earlier about the recruitment industry in India is actually fragmented with a lot of
Yep.
players. Only
Right.
about 15-16% is through the top five
Organized.
companies.
Yeah. Yeah.
So is it because of the digital technology, or what exactly is how it is helping the process?
Well, I think I believe that anything that you have to be, if an organization has to be successful in the recruiting space, in the talent space, I think it's about two factors. One is speed and to be able to scale, right? Now, when I talk about speed, I think it's about in if a client has a requirement for a certain profile, let's say a CFO, if they are hiring for a CFO, uh, usually there is not much of exclusivity that is provided. So they would not give an exclusive mandate unless it's a proven recruitment firm, right? So it's open for 6 or 7 firms, and who is the fastest finger first, who is able to source the best talent wins the race. Second is, obviously, I think the market is going through a lot of cost pressure. As I said, if the future is going to be making the cost most effective, you need to be there is also a lot of cost pressures that clients face. So it creates a competitiveness. The third thing is the demographic of shifting of, especially post-COVID, it has accelerated, where people are shifting to tier two and tier three and the smaller towns for jobs, and they can work remotely. So digital platforms and technologies are revolutionizing the landscape, enabling organizations to identify, engage, and hire top talent more effectively than before. So you need AI-driven applicant tracking systems. So at Randstad, we do have our own database of talent pool. And since we are specialized, we have the talent pool for each specialization. Like, for example, finance could be a specialization. Tech could be a specialization. Engineering could be a specialization. So every day our consultants are calling hundreds of talents, validating them and putting them in our database so that we are able to kind of pre-validate these candidates. And we do that for jobs which are on demand based on forecasts. Um, so so one is that. Second is about using digital capabilities. Gone are the days where you can, in a country like India, if you have to call 1,000 candidates, you need a lot of consultants. So we use AI-driven tools where, basically AI can ask a preset number of questions, and based on the responses from the talent, the AI would also change the questions accordingly, so that 80% of the sourcing is done by automation. And then you need the human touch. I always believe that I have never changed my job based on online application I fill and a video interview and joining the company. I would definitely want to understand who I am reporting to, what is the culture of that organization, who are my peers. So, so you require a human to actually kind of show empathy, work on some of those, and make the talent a lot more educated so that they can fit in, they feel that they are good fit for that role. So that's where the investments are happening. Mainly AI-driven recruitment processes, where in a large pool, you are able to identify who are the 2 or 3 perfect match for that role. And and of course, a lot of it depends on the CV or the resume of the talent, and sometimes it can be glorified, right? Um, so you also need to be able to assess what part of the CV is the strength of the talent and what part of it is a little bit of flux. So even there, the technology helps in terms of doing the right assessments so that we are able to filter only those candidates who we think will fit into that role. So a lot happening on technology. HR tech as an industry is, ballooning, because I think it's not just about recruitment, but also about during the employee life cycle. How can a company keep that person motivated, engaged, being valued? So right in the performance appraisal process, it could be also in the skilling, upskilling requirements, understanding what are their individual development goals, plans. So a lot of it is driven by HR tech today. And of course, a lot of skilling is also possible now through self-learning more than classroom. So all this is also going to help employees upskill themselves. The last part is rewards, recognitions, and also celebrations. I believe that employees like to be recognized for the work they are doing. And in my career, I have seen, motivation. I mean, I call it as two levels of motivation. One is the extrinsic one, where you can give trophies and cash awards, etc. But that dies down after some time. Now you need. I developed something called as an intrinsic motivation. So how do I keep that talent fired up, and really that fire in that belly where they are self-motivated rather than somebody prescribing them the motivation. So I think again gamification through technology is also very important in those aspects of motivation.
Fantastic. I think you have been quite elaborate on all your answers. So, as a parting question, I just wanted to ask a very generic one. Since you are seeing both the demand as well as supply side of the talent, what would be your advice to companies in terms of the retention of talent? As you mentioned earlier, that talent is becoming scarce, though on the supply side, I would say the supply is actually quite abundant.
Yeah.
So what would be your advice to the employees who are looking for talent? And what would be advice to youngsters who are also probably watching this and listening to this conversation in terms of their readiness for the future?
Well, very interesting. And as the job market and as the future of workforce is changing, companies have a larger responsibility not to take talent for granted, right? So we have to go to the places where the talent is and not expect the talent to come to the large metros and towns where the organizations are present. So flexibility is very important. Build a very compelling employer value proposition, something which, today nobody takes a job without looking at the company's website, the press releases, the media, what they find from the media. A lot of learning is possible just by following companies. So I think organizations need to have a very compelling vision, provide foster growth opportunities. Those kind of things are given, and people look for innovation. I was talking to a very young talent, and he was saying, "I'm looking for a job where I can work for a week and maybe take a short break, go and climb the Himalayas and come back." So talent has passion outside of work. How can employers be able to support some part of it, if not all? Some, would be a good way. I think competitive and transparent compensation, right? Because I think it's okay to have fixed and variable compensations. Maybe at senior levels, a large part of the salary could be a variable compensation, because I think companies are not for profit organizations, so they also need to be able to manage their workforce and the cost well. So I think a good blend of compensation practices, a strong leadership culture where people feel respected, valued. D and I can be a game changer, especially the younger generation. They really thrive in organizations which support diversity and inclusion. And of course, fostering long-term ethical standards, right? So talent gets attracted when looking at companies' sustainable development goals. Some of the out of the 17 SDGs, as we call it, uh, Randstad has adopted 5 of them. Uh, to name a few, it could be about gender parity. So basically, do women get the same? I mean, gender parity is about women and men diversity. Then we are also trying to address the gender pay gap. So if there is a work that is given to a man and the same work is given to a woman, are they equally paid, or is the man getting a higher salary than the woman? So we are very passionate about addressing that metric, because not everything can be done overnight, but over a period. Being aware of it, conscious about it, is itself a big step. Climate change is another sustainable development goal for us. So likewise, when we have these SDGs, talent looks for it even before they accept the job, and they get motivated. And then, of course, um, for the talent, I think it's more about uh, knowing that it is not just availing all the facilities like a cafeteria or a gym, etc., etc. But I think it's about discipline. It's about growth mindset. It's about curiosity and contributing to the success of the organization. Uh, I would say most often uh, I would say the talent need to have a purpose outside of themselves. And what I mean is, I ask this question: what's your purpose in a job interview? And most often, I think it's about, I want to grow to a senior vice president or a CXO in 5 years, 7 years. I want to get a 6-digit salary. I want to buy a car. I mean, great purposes. I'm not saying that's not required, but that's more intrinsic personal purpose. But uh, the professional purpose could be, how can I create a meaningful impact to society? For example, in Randstad, our job is, we provide jobs to people. So how can we create X number of jobs and put people to work? How can we help several families transform? So something like that could be a little bit more compelling in addition to your personal purpose. So I think and continuous learning agility is perhaps the most important today, uh, and not be too much fearful of failure. Take bold but balanced risks. So I think these are some advice for the talent, I would say.
Very well put. I think you have been really balanced on both the sides. It was lovely to talk to you. It was a really interesting session in terms of learning a lot of things, what is happening in this particular industry. In fact, you're the first guest on my show, which is from this particular industry of recruitment, though I have interacted with HR professionals earlier, but
Right.
first from the industry. So thank you for your time today and really appreciate all the insights what you have provided. Hopefully, this conversation will reach out to many of our target audience who will be benefited from this insightful conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, SP. I think it's been a pleasure talking to you, and I'm glad that you enjoyed it. And for all the viewers, yeah, I mean, hope you get a small learning bite from this and be the spark and inspire your teams in whatever you do. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Hope you enjoy this episode. We sincerely wish you could take something from our conversation today and be able to apply it to your life in a positive way. We value your feedback. This can help us improve our future episodes. So share your thoughts to serve you better. If you want us to focus on a topic which you think is of importance, let us know. We will share our expertise in future episodes. So, see you soon with a new topic and help you in your career journey.